At 34, I found myself in a rut. My days were routing, working for a small, unremarkable firm in the city. My days blended into each other. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat. My social life was virtually non-existent, a casualty of long hours and a natural inclination for being introverted. Each evening, I'd return to my modest apartment. The silence greets me as my roommate. It was in one of these solitary nights that I decided to turn to the digital world for the first time, hoping I can find someone to talk to. A friend, companionship, or a relationship. I downloaded one of the popular dating apps. I was skeptical, yet the flicker of hope in the pit of my stomach was hard to ignore. As I swiped through profiles, I found myself reflecting on what I like. There was a lot of profiles, young, old, happy, high expectations, you name it. But I longed for connection, for someone I can talk to turn my dull days into extraordinary get-togethers. That's when her profile caught my eye. There was something about her. Maybe it was her genuine smile or the way her eyes seemed to sparkle with hidden narratives. We matched, and soon, our messages became my daily comfort. We'll use Emily as her name, a school teacher with a love for poetry, travel, and she was funny. I mean really funny. She could light up the darkest of my days. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, ranging from our shared love for coffee, long walks, to the music genre we love, to more personal topics. Emily had a way of making me finally open up. Our chats were the cure for my loneliness, and I found myself eagerly waiting for her messages. Our daily chats were a beacon in my otherwise monotonous life. As days turned into weeks, I finally got the courage to ask her to meet. The decision to meet was expected, a step we both felt ready for. Little did I know that our meeting was going to play out in ways I could never have imagined. The idea of meeting her, of finally seeing the woman who I felt knew forever, my dream, sent a rush of excitement and nerves through me. We decided to meet out of town. It was her decision, and I didn't pay much attention to it. She suggested that we should get away from the prying eyes and the hustle of our everyday lives. There was a little town about an hour away, again her idea. She said it would be the perfect setting for our first encounter. Emily took the initiative to book a hotel. It's a charming place, she said in her chat, has a beautiful room, nice stand-up shower, and no one can bother us. The thought of spending the night with her in a place detached from our realities was exciting. I was excited. I couldn't believe it. Me, the introvert. Finally, I get to talk to someone, and now I get to meet her. I spent the next few days in a shock, my mind constantly thinking about Emily and the upcoming weekend. I imagined all the possibilities. What I am going to wear, the conversations we would have, the music we will listen to, the laughter, and how we are going to enjoy each other's company. This wasn't just a meeting. It felt like a pivotal moment in my life, a chance to finally connect with someone who I felt comfortable with. The day before our meeting, I was a bundle of nerves. I double-checked my packing, making sure to include everything that I might need. I wanted everything to be perfect. I picked out a nice shirt, one that I thought would impress her, and even booked a haircut. Every detail mattered. That night, I hardly slept. My mind raced with anticipation and a hint of fear. What if we didn't connect in person as we did online? What if the chemistry we felt was just a product of our loneliness? But then I remembered her words, her voice in our calls, and I found some comfort. The morning. As I drove to the hotel, the scenery outside was a blur of greens and blues, but my mind couldn't stop thinking. My ear was loud and unsteady, echoing my inner thoughts of excitement and fear. Little did I know that this meeting would test my emotions and change the trajectory of my life in ways I could never have imagined, forever. Upon arrival, I made my way to the room she booked. I knocked on the door. My breath hitched as she opened, to find Emily standing there. She was exactly the same as her profile picture. Cute smile, shy, and even more beautiful in person. We stood there for a second, taking each other in, before she finally asked, "Are you coming in?" The initial awkwardness soon gave way to comfortable conversation. We talked, laughed, and shared stories, reminding us of our early chats. As the evening progressed, our interaction started to get more intimate. The emotional bond we formed online transformed into physical attraction, drawing us closer. I took off my clothes, jumped on bed, and as she was about to take her off and join me, her phone rang. What? Now? Do you even have to answer? Well, she did, and it shattered the moment. I watched, a silent observer, as Emily answered the call. Her face, which had been full with happiness, crumbled into despair. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she listened to the voice on the other end. She ended the call with a choked sob. My son, she said, through her tears, had been in a terrible accident and was now in the hospital. The news hit me like a physical blow. Here we were, in the climax of our newfound affection. A tragedy had struck, unannounced and merciless. The shift in the atmosphere was sudden. The room that once felt like a haven of warmth, full of passion, is now dark, quiet, and I felt lost. Not sure what to do as I watched Emily, filled with a storm of emotions playing across her face: guilt, sorrow, fear. She was no longer the woman I had been laughing with moments ago. She was a mother engulfed in worry for her child. It finally hit me. I knew what I had to do. I offered to drive her to the hospital, an hour away. The drive was a blur, filled with Emily's quiet sobs and my attempts to offer comfort. She shared snippets of her life, her troubled marriage, her love for her son, the loneliness that mirrored my own. Oh wait, what? She's married. When was I supposed to know about this? We arrived at the hospital. Her husband, a tall, well-built man, was waiting outside. The sight of him filled me with a confusing mix of fear and relief. Emily rushed into his arms, her sobs renewing at the sight of her husband. I stayed in the car, watching the scene unfold. They talked for a bit, and the husband turned and walked straight to my car. I braced myself for a confrontation, thinking about a million excuses in the few seconds I have left. Instead, he extended his hand in gratitude, pressing a $100 bill into my hand, thanking me for helping his wife. He was oblivious to the true nature of our meeting, to the intimacy that had been growing just hours before. The drive back to my apartment was one of the longest and most quiet journeys of my life. The silence of the car was filled with the echoes of the day's events, each mile deepening my understanding of the complex web of emotions I had unknowingly become a part of. That night, as I lay in my bedroom, I replayed the events of the evening. The initial euphoria of meeting Emily, the devastating phone call, and the subsequent drive to the hospital. It all felt like a bad dream. I was left wrestling with a mix of emotions: empathy for Emily's dilemma, confusion about our relationship, and an unexpected sense of guilt for intruding into her family's life. The night was restless. Thoughts of Emily's son, intertwined with images of her husband's grateful yet unknowing expression, haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line, albeit unknowingly, into a situation far more complicated than a simple night get-together. I thought about reaching out to Emily, yet a part of me hesitated, unsure what to do after everything I learned. The days following were a blur of emotions and unanswered questions, and I, a once distant stranger, had somehow become a part of her story. The tragic news came just a few days later. By text from Emily, her son did not survive the accident. The weight of this news hit me with a surprising force, a deep sadness for a life I had never known, but had briefly become entangled with. Emily reached out to me, her voice a fragile whisper over the phone. She asked me to attend the funeral. "You were there in his last moments," she said. "It would mean a lot if you could come." I agreed, unsure of my place in this gathering, but feeling a sense of responsibility to be there, a silent support in her time of need. The funeral was a gathering of family and friends united in grief. I stood at the back, an observer of the heartache that unfolded before me. Emily's husband, now a figure I recognized, nodded at me in gratitude. I was introduced as the kind stranger who had helped his wife in her moment of crisis. The truth of our connection remained unspoken, a secret that lay heavily between us. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I drifted apart. Our conversations became sparse, the connection we once shared overshadowed by the magnitude of her loss. Yet, in a strange twist of fate, I found myself being drawn into her family circle. They saw me as a compassionate figure who had provided solace in their darkest hour, unaware of the complexity of my initial involvement. It was during a small family gathering that Emily had invited me to, a kind of commemoration of her son's life, where I met Anna, Emily's sister-in-law. Anna was a contrast to the grief around us, funny, spirited, and with a smile that seemed to defy the sadness of the occasion. We were introduced, and our connection was immediate, a spark in the midst of sorrow. We talked for hours, finding solace in shared interests and perspectives on life. Anna, with her empathetic nature and zest for life, brought a sense of normality back into my world. Our friendship grew steadily, a natural and easy bond that was a balm to the emotional turmoil I had experienced. As months passed, our relationship, which had started in the most unlikely of circumstances, deepened into something more profound. She brought laughter back into my life, her presence a constant reminder that even in the wake of tragedy, life could find a way to blossom anew. Reflecting on the journey that led me to Anna, I look at the twist of fate that brought us together. A search for companionship had led me down a path of unforeseen events, knowing Emily, which changed us both forever. In the end, it was through this journey of unexpected turns that I found a connection that resonated with my heart, a new beginning in the wake of a painful ending. In the end, this story is not just about finding love. It's about the unexpected connections we make, and the way our paths intertwine with others in this life. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most unexpected routes lead us to the destinations we were always meant to find.